It's June 2018. LeBron James is walking off the floor at Quicken Loans Arena after a devastating 4-game final sweep by the Golden State Warriors.
Just a brutal, brutal series.
Absolutely brutal. I mean, he's just averaged 34 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 10 assists per game against one of the greatest defenses ever assembled. He posted a 31.6 player efficiency rating,
which is mathematically the highest efficiency rating for a losing player in finals history, by the way.
Right, exactly. So he realizes that operating at peak individual mastery simply isn't enough to beat this Golden State machine. The central question we are exploring today is this: what if? In the summer of 2018, LeBron decided the only way to beat the Warriors was to join them.
Oh, man.
Welcome to The Debate. Welcome to What If Show, part of the What If Pod channel. Like, share, comment on the video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if LeBron James had signed with Golden State, would it have created an unstoppable multi-championship dynasty? Or would it have quickly imploded from the inside out due to clashing egos and incompatible systems?
It's the ultimate basketball hypothetical.
It really is. And I'm looking at this from a pure talent and basketball geometry perspective. Adding LeBron to a core of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant, that creates the greatest basketball dynasty in professional sports history, easily securing 5 consecutive championships.
And I take the opposing view here. You know, you can't just mash elite players together on a spreadsheet and expect a dynasty. Basketball's played in a locker room by highly emotional human beings.
Sure, but...
No, listen, the sheer weight of 4 alpha egos and wildly conflicting offensive philosophies would have destroyed the team's chemistry. It would have led to absolute chaos, not championships.
Look, let's just look at the reality of the on-court fit, all right? Because the physical game dictates the psychological game. Winning cures a tremendous amount of locker room friction, and the winning here would be unprecedented.
Winning does cure a lot, but I don't know if it cures everything.
It cures enough. LeBron's primary historical weakness in the playoffs has always been isolation shot creation against packed paints, right? Teams build a physical wall of defenders to stop his downhill drives. But if you place LeBron James on the 2018 Golden State Warriors, that specific defensive scheme becomes mathematically impossible to execute.
Mathematically impossible is a strong phrase.
But it is. You are putting the greatest downhill force in basketball history next to the 2 greatest shooters in history. The empirical evidence of court geometry dictates that this team would be fundamentally unguardable.
Okay, I come at it from a completely different way. You're looking at this purely through the lens of like a video game simulation. I frame this counter-argument around what I call ego mathematics.
Ego mathematics. Okay, explain that.
Well, the 2018 Warriors weren't a blank slate waiting for a superstar to arrive and save them. They already had 4 players who had been a franchise's absolute focal point. Kevin Durant was the 2014 MVP. Stephen Curry was the first unanimous MVP in league history.
True.
And Draymond Green viewed himself as the emotional and defensive soul of a dynasty. LeBron James, for all his brilliance, has never thrived in an environment where he wasn't the undisputed, unquestioned center of gravity.
I mean, he went to Miami and played with Wade.
Yeah, but from Miami to Cleveland, his success is ultimately predicated on being the son of the organization. Wade took a back seat. Integrating LeBron into an ecosystem that already possessed its own sun, its own gravitational pull, would have been psychologically impossible.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective on how the spacing actually forces them to succeed together. Let's really drill into the mechanics of why this works on the floor. Stephen Curry's gravity, the way he pulls defenders 30 feet from the basket just by existing, is unparalleled.
Oh, absolutely.
And Klay Thompson is statistically the 2nd greatest shooter ever. So if LeBron James is the primary playmaker orchestrating the offense between these 2 wings, you create what I would call a Zugzwang in basketball terms.
Ah, the chess concept, right? Where any move you make essentially destroys your position.
Exactly. In chess, Zugzwang means you are forced to make a move, and every legal move worsens your board state. If a defense is facing a LeBron pick and roll with Curry, they are an absolute Zugzwang. Explain to me how a defense stops this.
Well, they would try to rotate.
But if the weak side defender drops into the paint to stop LeBron's drive, which is, the traditional way to defend him, he leaves Klay Thompson open for a high percentage three. If the defender stays glued to Thompson, the paint is entirely empty.
Right.
And LeBron James, a 250-pound freight train with elite finishing ability, gets an uncontested layup. Every defensive rotation is a fatal mistake. The geometry forces opposing defenses to abandon the paint entirely. How can a system fail when the math dictates a wide-open, highly efficient shot on literally every single possession?
Look, that is a compelling argument. But have you considered the reality of Steve Kerr's offensive philosophy? What you are describing is a heliocentric offense.
Which works.
It works for LeBron, sure. But you're describing a system where LeBron James acts as the literal sun. He holds the ball at the top of the key for 8 to 10 seconds, surveying the floor and dictating the play, while everyone else stands perfectly still as spot-up planetary bodies.
Right.
That is exactly how LeBron plays basketball. It's highly effective for him, but it is the absolute antithesis of the Golden State Warriors system.
But Steve Kerr's system could adapt to incorporate the best player in the world. Coaches adapt all the time.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, honestly, because we have 2 decades of empirical data showing exactly how LeBron prefers to play and exactly how Steve Kerr prefers to coach. Kerr's philosophy relies on the 0.5-second rule.
Right. Shoot, pass, or drive.
Exactly. When you catch the ball, you have half a second to make a decision. It relies on continuous selfless ball movement, off-ball screens, and positionless flow. Let's look at the actual mechanics of the Warriors' offense. Draymond Green is the hub.
He is.
Draymond stands at the top of the key holding the ball while Steph and Klay run a dizzying maze of split cuts and screens off the ball. If LeBron comes to Golden State, LeBron demands the ball at the top of the key. So what happens to Draymond Green?
He set screens?
But Draymond isn't a perimeter threat. His defender sags off him, clogging the very driving lanes you just said would be wide open. You can't run Kerr's beautiful motion offense and LeBron's isolation offense simultaneously. It's like trying to run 2 different operating systems on the same computer. Eventually, the motherboard just crashes.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it a bit differently. The Warriors wouldn't need to run LeBron's heliocentric offense for all 48 minutes.
They wouldn't?
No, they just needed it as a devastating counterpunch when their own motion offense bogged down in high-leverage playoff moments. And that brings me to the reality of the 2019 NBA Finals, which is the ultimate test case for this debate.
Okay, let's look at 2019.
Let's look at what actually killed this dynasty in reality: attrition. The Warriors lost to the Toronto Raptors in 6 games. In Game 5, Kevin Durant suffers a catastrophic Achilles rupture. In Game 6, Klay Thompson tears his ACL. Despite losing 2 generational talents to horrific injuries, the Warriors lost those 2 closeout games by a combined total of 7 points.
Right, the margin for error was razor thin at that point.
Exactly. 7 points separated a decimated Golden State team from pushing that series forward. Now, let's insert LeBron James into that exact scenario. Look at the mechanics of Nick Nurse's defense in that Raptors series. Toronto ran a box-and-1 defense to shut down Curry, basically swarming him because nobody else could reliably create a shot.
Yeah, they completely sold out on Steph.
But if LeBron is on the floor, you cannot run a box-and-1. LeBron flashes to the middle of the zone, catches the ball, and he either finishes through contact or whips a pass to an open shooter. In those tight fourth-quarter moments where the motion offense is sputtering and players are injured, LeBron doesn't just score, he hunts mismatches.
He does do that.
He forces a switch to get a weaker defender on him, slows the pace, and guarantees a high-percentage look. That mechanism alone easily flips those 7 points. With LeBron on that roster, the Warriors win the 2019 title, securing a dynasty. His physical dominance and durability serve as the ultimate injury mitigation.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
Your argument operates under the massive, glaring assumption that this hypothetical 2018-2019 Warriors team even reaches the 2019 finals intact. You're fast-forwarding to June 2019 and assuming the locker room hasn't already detonated by February.
You really believe a team with that much historical greatness and that much collective basketball IQ would just fall apart mid-season?
Yes, absolutely. We don't even have to guess about the underlying tension. We saw it play out in reality. We saw the documented, highly public altercation between Kevin Durant and Draymond Green in November of 2018 against the Clippers.
Oh, the infamous game.
Right. Green literally yelled at Durant on the court, "We don't need you. We won without you. Leave." The tension over who belonged, whose system it was, who was sacrificing their numbers, and who was getting the credit was already boiling over. And that was just with Durant trying to fit in. Now add LeBron James to that powder keg.
But LeBron is a brilliant facilitator. He elevates his teammates.
On the court, yes. But off the court, LeBron doesn't just join a franchise, he consumes it. He becomes the franchise. He brings the leverage of his agency, Clutch Sports. He applies passive-aggressive pressure through the media to upgrade the roster with veterans he prefers.
Well, that's just modern superstar leverage.
But Draymond Green, who desperately needs to be the emotional alpha of that locker room, suddenly has a player sitting next to him who dictates the emotional temperature of the entire league. Think about the power dynamic. Does Steve Kerr have the authority to bench LeBron if he's not rotating on defense? No.
I mean, probably not.
How does that dynamic not accelerate Durant's departure even faster? How does Draymond not completely lose his emotional tether when LeBron starts demanding the ball in Draymond's traditional spots? I submit to you that the team fractures immediately under the weight of these alpha male dynamics before the playoffs even begin.
I grant you the psychological weight of multiple superstars is a heavy burden. The media circus alone would be suffocating. But I have to wonder, and I'll admit a deep degree of fascination with this specific angle, what this hypothetical does to the broader historical conversation. Because let's assume they figure it out.
That's a big assumption.
Just go with me. Let's assume the desire to win overrides the ego, and they manage to win, say, 3 more titles together. We inevitably arrive at the Michael Jordan GOAT debate. And this is where the implications of this move are just staggering.
The greatest of all-time legacy. That is the true underlying currency of every career choice LeBron has made since 2014.
Exactly. By the summer of 2018, LeBron's pursuit of Jordan's ghost is the defining narrative of his career. Jordan has 6 rings, all won with the Chicago Bulls. If LeBron goes to Golden State and they win the 2019, 2020, and 2021 championships, LeBron finishes his career with perhaps 8 or 9 total rings.
Which is a crazy number to even think about.
Right. From a purely numerical standpoint, 9 is greater than 6. But he would have scattered those championships across 4 different franchises: Miami, Cleveland, Golden State, and perhaps somewhere else later. My question is, does winning 8 or 9 rings with an assembled, absolutely unbeatable super team definitively elevate him past Jordan in the public eye?
I would argue it does the exact opposite. It's a brilliant paradox. If LeBron joins the 2018 Warriors and wins 9 rings, it might actually validate Michael Jordan's argument for supremacy.
How so? Because historically, the sheer volume of championships is the ultimate trump card in these debates. We constantly use ring counts to end arguments.
Volume matters, yes, but context is the anchor of legacy. Michael Jordan's argument for true greatness rests on the fact that he built a dynasty from within. He stayed in Chicago, he endured the brutal physical playoff beatings from the bad boy Detroit Pistons year after year.
The Jordan roles.
Exactly. He learned how to win within a single system, climb the mountain, and then maintain dominance against all challengers. He was the mountain. LeBron joining the 2018 Warriors, a team that had already won 3 titles and had explicitly eliminated him 3 times, would be viewed as him chartering a helicopter to the top of someone else's mountain.
Wow. Chartering a helicopter. I actually hadn't thought about it from the perspective of how the public values the struggle of winning. That completely reframes the Jordan argument.
Exactly. It fundamentally changes the criteria of what constitutes a dynasty. If you assemble an Avengers-level team where the outcome is a foregone conclusion in October, the achievement of winning the championship in June loses its narrative weight.
The struggle is what gives the championship its value.
Yes. Jordan's struggle against the physical Knicks, the Reggie Miller Pacers, the Stockton Malone Jazz, that friction defined his greatness. If LeBron's only struggle on the Warriors is figuring out who takes the most shots in a 20-point blowout, the public would revolt against the idea that it makes him greater than Jordan. It might ironically close the GOAT debate permanently in Jordan's favor, precisely because LeBron proved he needed an unbeatable, pre-existing system to surpass Jordan's total.
I see the logic there. The idea that by taking the path of least resistance to acquire the most hardware, he would inadvertently devalue the hardware itself. The rings would be viewed with an asterisk by basketball purists.
A huge asterisk.
But I still maintain that history is largely written by the victors. When we look back at Bill Russell's 11 rings with the Boston Celtics, we don't heavily penalize him because he was playing alongside 8 Hall of Famers.
That's a different era, though.
It is, but we don't scrutinize the competitive balance of the 1960s NBA in everyday conversation. We just revere the sheer volume of winning. Decades from now, a Wikipedia page showing 9 championships for LeBron would carry an undeniable, overwhelming weight. But your point highlights the incredible tension between the acquisition of pure talent and the preservation of competitive integrity.
And the preservation of team chemistry. You cannot separate the physical product on the court from the psychological environment that produces it. We treat these rosters like fantasy basketball teams, dragging and dropping player icons onto a screen and expecting their stat outputs to remain identical. But these are complex, fragile ecosystems. The minute you change the inputs, the whole system reacts.
It brings us right back to the core tension of this thought experiment. We've deeply explored the physical geometry, the tactical coaching adjustments, and the psychological ramifications of this ultimate hypothetical. Let's pull this together. From my perspective, the empirical talent of LeBron James, combined with the unparalleled shooting geometry of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, simply overrides interpersonal friction.
I just can't agree with that.
In professional sports, winning is the ultimate deodorant for locker room issues. The sheer unguardability of that roster, the zugzwang they put defenses in every single possession, would have resulted in a multi-year dynasty. His physical dominance would have easily mitigated the catastrophic injuries that actually derailed Golden State in 2019.
And I remain steadfast in my position that basketball is played by proud, emotional human beings, not algorithms. You cannot forcefully combine a heliocentric playmaker who demands total organizational control with a selfless motion offense and a locker room already bursting to the seams with generational egos.
It would be a lot of egos.
It's too many. The clash of systems, the tension over who runs the offense, the friction between Durant, Draymond, and LeBron, and the relentless, suffocating media scrutiny would make that roster an absolute ticking time bomb. The motherboard crashes before they ever reach the finals.
Yet we both find common ground in the fascinating paradox it creates for the Michael Jordan legacy debate. It illuminates a brilliant nuance about the nature of sports sometimes. Achieving the ultimate mathematical success through overwhelming aggregated talent can actually diminish the perceived greatness of the journey.
Precisely. It shows us that there is a fragile, delicate balance in dynasty building. More talent is not always better. Sometimes, more is just too much to hold together.
This is why the summer of 2018 remains such a compelling inflection point in modern sports history. It forces us to look past the box scores and ask what we truly value: the flawless execution of overwhelming assembled super teams, or the brutal human struggle of building a champion from the ground up, dealing with all that ego collapse.
That is the ultimate question.
So we are turning this over to you, the audience. Would a 2018 LeBron James and Golden State Warriors union have created an unstoppable super team dynasty? Or would it have ended in a spectacular ego collapse? Leave your definitive answers down in the comment section below. Keep the debate going, defend your positions, and we will see you next time.